All right, we will call to order the meeting of the Fairfield Fairfield Public Library Board of Trustees at 7:04 p.m. Our first item of business is public comments. There's none here in the room, and apparently none in the on the web meeting. So next item of business will be the approval of minutes. We'll be approving both the September meeting as well as the October meeting, as the last meeting we did not achieve quorum. So please take a few minutes to review the notes from last 2 months, 2 meetings rather, and let us know if there are any edits necessary. Any feedback on either September or October's minutes? Okay, Chris, you affirmatively responded to me, so you get to make the motion. Go for it.
Make a motion to set
Here, the motion. Scott, write it
the
down.
library trustees approves the following minutes from the September and October meeting of the library trustees.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Fantastic. The minutes are approved.
Hard to make it church.
What's up?
It's like going to church. Our weddings.
Yeah. I won't go into a spiel, but from a chairman's report perspective, we had some good meetings over the course of the last month. I know a lot has been going on. Scott, I know you'll probably cover it, but it sounds like the staff development day went well. We'll talk a little bit more about the board funding some of that stuff. I think there's a lot that is in motion currently from a board perspective, from a library perspective, and from a town perspective. And I think one of the things that we should, as a board, be looking towards doing, especially as we go through these election cycles and things of that nature, is to continue to be vociferous advocates for our library, for our librarians, and continue to support whomever is in office, as I would say. The other thing to note, just from a procedural perspective, May will be a board member. We just have to get you from the board of selectmen. So I'm coordinating with the first selectman's office on that. It's just been, she's had other things going on, apparently. But that being said, so right now we are still a board of 5 technically, just for argument's sake. But it's great to still have May here. Obviously, a couple things, has been procedurally a bit of a difficult transition period. A lot of learning is often this from a trustee perspective. So bear with us, but we will get there. We're getting there. So with that, I will hand it over to Scott for library updates.
So we have a lot of business tonight, so I am going to keep it short. I just want to highlight staff development day and then open up for questions about anything else in the report. A library held its first staff development day in 7 years, and this was, we believe, the first time an entire day was dedicated to such a training. Nearly all full-time staff and about a third of our part-time staff attended at least all or part of the day. Sessions included warning signs of dementia. Then we got a report from the Fairfield Public Schools Youth Survey, talking about drug and alcohol use and even youth mental health. And then we had a great presentation on library record confidentiality and privacy, all kind of things that we've been seeing a lot of issues around or we've had concerns. And then we closed out the day with staff received kind of peer training on multiple things. So department heads and members of each staff did a training for the rest of the staff. It was almost like a round robin. This included training on behavior policy and writing incident reports. That was May, of course, very exciting. Then we also did one on new databases. We did one on serving teams, which was awesome because Jen actually had the teams do videos where they kind of had scenarios. And then we had a presentation on the importance of early literacy. This was an entire day. It took up the entire 7-hour, 8-hour workday. Staff, I believe, were very, very positive. The feedback that I received was really, really great. This is something that most libraries do, and I was really kind of surprised that it hadn't happened here in such a long time. It gets everybody in the same building. We had multiple people say, wow, I didn't know this person. I'd never seen this person before. It got new staff introduced to each other. It just got us in the room talking about things. There was enough breaks where people got to meet and talk and catch up. And just from the questions and from kind of the feedback we got, I think the staff got a lot out of it.
Great.
And Nancy helped me set it up. She was my co-chair. So kudos to Nancy as well.
Fantastic. Anything, so then that's operations. Oh, yeah, sorry, Peter.
So has the staff ever had the opportunity to have a joint meeting with the board?
No, what we've been doing is like 2 months ago, we had children's services come and present about summer reading. We will then probably in about a month, whenever it's the gap in presentations or the gap in reports, we'll probably have Philip and Jen come and talk about one book, one town. But like an opportunity just to have a conversation.
The opportunity to bring the staff in and maybe just have a coffee with, just for us to know who the staff is, for them to know who we are. And because when you think about a board, it's so distant from that. It's not as if it's not the fact that you're walking in and saying to the staff, well, the board did this, that. It's more like we should know who's who. And I think they should know who's who on our,
So
maybe have an hour, coffee hour.
Sure.
Or something.
The other thing that we started doing with Erin, which was kind of my first new trustee, we are doing a trustee onboarding. So once everything's done with the selectmen and we get all of that finished, Erin did a tour last year where she actually went around to both locations, met all the staff who are working pretty much.
Not the branch.
Not the branch.
Yeah.
We didn't go to the branch?
No, we had intended to, just never got there.
So May will do both the branch and anyone is more than welcome
Yeah.
to come along.
Oh, thank you. No, but I felt like we'll talk about it later, when we came up for the visit last week, that was great to walk around.
So, I mean, we definitely provide those opportunities. I think you will, over the next year, see all the management staff, but we're talking about 76 people. So it would be interesting to coordinate something and maybe next staff development day, we'll think about adopting something like that, or can come in during the sessions.
Yeah.
That's actually an interesting thing to plan
And then
out.
we could all be tested on the names of the 76 people they did.
Well, that's why everybody wears, make sure everybody wears name tags. So.
Absolutely. Is there anything, do you want to go into town budget Q1 review?
Sure, nothing really exciting to report. Jan and I just went over it. We're on budget. Nothing over. We're actually a little bit lower in some categories than we were this time last year. We're at almost exactly 25% for the quarter for part-time staffing, which is really good because Q1 tends to actually be a high part-time staffing time. So, I think Aaron will agree, if you're 25% in the first quarter, you're trending towards, being under or at 100% at the fourth quarter. So nothing really jumped out at us. We do have to be aware that our part-time budget line can go over, just because many of our part-time staff got a raise. So we just have to be cognizant of that and aware of that. Other than that, the only other thing that we're spending more money on is janitorial supplies, but that's a relatively small budget line. And I'm not sure what may have caused that, because I thought we bought a lot of supplies last year, at the end of last year. So other than that, we're on trend and spending looks pretty good. Jan, did you have?
No, I just passed it out because it was kind of hard to read, isn't it?
Yeah, the packet was
Yeah.
formatted a little bit differently. Cool. Stuff. And then the state report.
I'll let Jan talk about that one.
So what was sent out, I hope you didn't look at it too carefully, because it was still draft, and there was a calculation error for circulation. So I prepared this little listing of some of the highlights. I compared this year's visits, internet sessions, reference transactions, programming, and circulation in all the different categories. I compared this year to the previous year and back to FY19 pre-COVID. So you could kind of see where we are with that. Programming, we're definitely doing great. Circulation improved a great deal from last year. Still not quite up to FY19, but pretty close.
And book circulation is almost on par with 2019, which is a good sign. Really good depth formats that are dragging our circulation beyond. And then library visits, as we reported last time when you guys asked for comparison numbers, remember that we changed
Yep.
our software and hardware to calculate visits.
Yep.
So I think this is probably a more honest answer of what visits look like than the original tour count.
Assuming the same can be said for public internet sessions.
No, I think public internet sessions are just down.
Really?
I don't think they're down that much. I've got to talk to Jim and just see what we've changed since 2019. But up until about 3 months ago, we were wondering if we were ever going to see patrons at the desktops again. It's gone up in the last 3 months. How has it been at the branch? Yeah, it's mostly, most of our internet usage right now is Wi-Fi devices and laptops.
So public internet is using your computers versus we're using my own
Yes.
Yes.
Wi-Fi versus using a library computer.
Yeah.
So we did have a room dedicated to public internet stations prior to COVID. The room where the makerspace is now was all computers. So
You're
we
right.
had
Yep.
more computers available at the time.
Yeah, it still is a,
I think we had more regular users who would come in every day. We haven't seen that as much.
now is this,
Few, but
this
not as
may come off odd. Is it possible that there's fewer users because it's out in the open?
possible.
It's possible, but I mean,
I think people are using their phones now
Yeah.
when they need to, and, everyone's got a phone.
yeah, there is an idea to that. I mean, it's also, someone when I was on the desk the other day, asked me why we don't do what Westport does. Westport, they have a station, and you walk over, you get a laptop from the station, and you use it around the building wherever you want. So I'm wondering if that might increase usage, because again, I don't want to sit cattle next to other people on the computer. So that might be, the tethered desktops may, I don't think it's a lot, but I think maybe the tethered
There's
desktops.
some, yeah, there could be something too, like we were to have one that's up in the, you know, in the stacks or things like that, whether that, the usage would be different on those.
I think Chromebooks, and once the report's put together, the full state, it'll be interesting to look at these numbers, to see how we are compared to other libraries. And,
They're seeing public internet usage down as
they're
well.
seeing it down as well, because our Wi-Fi's up, so that's good. And then the other thing to think about is since 2019, Chromebooks are really inexpensive.
Yeah,
And I think during COVID, a lot of people bought Chromebooks because they. So I'm
I
wondering,
understand, yeah.
Here's a silly question, like, what does, like, the fact that it's cut in half, like, what does that ultimately mean? Like, what's that indicative about, besides less people using our equipment?
I think less people using our equipment and people being here for shorter periods of time. So what we don't have is people who are coming, using their card, using 3 visitor passes and being here for like 6 hours. Which I wasn't here in 2019, but that was a continual issue at the previous library.
So it's a good thing.
I would say in terms of quality of experience, it is a good thing.
We get a lot of people who just come in because they need to print something, their home printer's not working or their Wi-Fi is not down. And they just need to do what they have to do and then they go.
And we're also dealing with more people over COVID needed to quickly adopt new technology. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a spike in the amount of people we have to do. I mean, it's for the first time the state reports recording it. I'm glad they are. They should have been recording it 20 years ago. But a very big percentage of our reference interactions and the time that we spend with patrons doing reference is devices. So someone coming in the door, having, I helped a woman the other day over the phone, helped her with Libby on one device, checked to her on the other device. We finally figured out her one device was too old. But like 20 minutes to 30 minutes helping people figuring out how to use Libby, how to use Chrome. We helped a gentleman with his Android phone the other day. And when we look at open positions, we ask in the interview, are you an Apple user or an Android user? Because those are 2 distinct skill sets. Luckily, my son got an Android and I set it up, so I was helping this gentleman. So I think we have a lot more people who are still on a lower level of digital literacy, but now using devices and coming in the door to do email and Facebook. And the reality of it is, I would bet a significant part of those numbers from 2019 were people coming in to check their Facebook. So I'm interested to see how we compare to the rest of the state, if we have a huge drop in our desktop top usage, or if it's just indicative of the rest of the state. That's a good question. But it's interesting because we don't feel like we're doing any less in terms of digital literacy. We just have less people coming in just to get connected and more people coming in that need their hand kind of held in the process.
One of the new questions in the report this year, first time, is how many of your reference transactions are actually one-on-one technology help, helping people with digital resources?
And it's a lot of them.
Well, a lot of times somebody else will set up their phone. That's a big one. Someone, they'll get a phone, someone will set it up for them. And so if they have to sit down and print something off the computer, 9 times out of 10, they don't know their password, they don't know their email, they don't know any of that stuff, so they can't sometimes access. And luckily now we have ways that you can print from the. That's always a big question. Someone else has set up their phone, or that everything's saved, their passwords and stuff, and so they don't remember. It's frustrating, especially with Google with
All the security.
all the security. Because they might not have a phone, some people didn't, at one time didn't have a phone, so they didn't have the number to be able to put in to have that, second authentication.
Yeah. That being said, I do think you mentioned about Westport and what they do. Personally, I don't see that as something we need to offer here necessarily, because the tools are there and it's more of a burden on you guys right now to just do the tech stuff. I guess what's your, is there a benefit to raising the number of public, internet sessions in your,
Well, I think right now it's almost unlimited. They can still do that. It's just, we're not seeing it. We're not seeing people camped out going on.
I guess to rephrase the question, is it something we should be trying to drive more of that as a library, or is it something that it just is what it is?
I think it is what it is. I do think though, as more people get comfortable with handhelds and laptops, that we need to start thinking about providing computers that are more the experience they're used to, instead of a mouse and a keyboard and a desktop. And we're seeing it be popular in other libraries. And that gives people the ability to borrow a computer and then go to a study room or go to a section of the library where because right now, a lot of people are using these computers for communication.
Mhm.
So where they used to shoot emails, now they're doing Zoom sessions.
Mhm.
So the thought is if they don't have the device to do it, this gives them the opportunity to do it.
It's a good point there.
I mean, we'll reach out to the libraries that do the laptop lending and talk to them and see if they've seen an increase in usage.
Yeah.
And, if they're having issues with it. I actually think it might be better for staff because now you usually got somebody freaking out at the computer and then waving their hands and then, frustrated and looking over at us at the reference desk. Whereas if someone brings their own device, they walk up to the desk with it.
And they would do the same.
And that, I think that actually might be easier because there's definitely a frustration of walking back and forth for the members of the public. Anytime we have someone who has an issue here, I don't know about it Woods. Anytime we have someone who has an issue here, they seem like they're putting us out because they're making us get up and we're like, no, make us get up, we need to walk. But that may be helpful here.
Yeah, it's something for us to think about as we think, particularly as we look at some of the stuff that's in the strategic plan in regards to, technology and things of that nature. So, sorry to take us down a bit of that rabbit hole, but it's an interesting thing to understand kind of how people are using the library.
I mean, as desktops kind of start disappearing in the world, it's not a surprise. I don't think we would ever get rid of the desktops here, but I really do think over time it'll be they'll take less.
Well, it's a space management thing too, ultimately. So, good stuff. All right. Thank you, Jan. Moving into the next item of business, we have our policy review, which is patient privacy and confidentiality of library records. Scott, do you want to do a voiceover on this as to what we should be looking out for?
This is just provided for you to take home and read and look at for the next meeting. Because this will be a brand new policy for us, and you've seen versions of it over the last few months. This version of it, has not been reviewed by the town attorney. He was supposed to look at it last week. It got rescheduled till tomorrow. This version was actually done with a committee of the staff. We had talked about it in managers multiple times, and one or two staff members were really interested in kind of diving into it. This is not an unusual policy for the library. However, there are some difficulties with it only because one thing that we're trying to protect is patron data, and we do have a relationship with the Fairfield Museum and the Pequot Library using our ILS. And they're aware of these changes, so we will need to have a discussion with them about it. And really, it's just following Connecticut law with adding a little bit more to it, just saying that we're not, if Peter shows up, to a class about, knitting, we're not gonna let anybody know that Peter's attending a class on knitting.
It's out there now, Scott.
If Andrew, if you want to do a knitting class, we have it. If Andrew takes out a book, plumbing for dummies, we're not gonna let somebody know Andrew took out.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing. Come on, man.
So, it's really just, people don't think about it, but with the programs you attend at the library and the material that you borrow from the library can tell people, your neighbors, your friends, your partners, a lot about you. So, we usually use divorce for dummies as an example. So we just want to protect that information. And a lot of things that we do, like our Medicaid, Medicare programs or, college preparing programs, we'd never want to set someone up to have their information taken in such a way that there could be, predatory kind of thing going on, or just, a spouse coming in and finding out someone registered for a program and having a real issue. So that's really to protect this information.
And this is, may I ask a question, this is codifying that in our
Yes.
policy. It is not a change in how we are.
We've always operated this way. We've just never had a policy around it. And this does create some protections. We are a town department, so getting the town to kind of recognize that there, we had this discussion around some issues we had a little over a year ago, that there's some information we cannot provide to the town unless there's unless they go to a judge.
Yeah,
If the police go to a judge and get a warrant, we will absolutely give up that information. But, the idea of an elected official to be able to come in, and come in and look at somebody's library record when someone attended a program,
Yeah.
or sometimes when someone was in the building, I think that should be a concern for most people.
yeah. Do you mind resending it, to everyone once Jim's had a chance to look at it? The other thing, just to ask, he may or may not be aware of anything coming in the legislature or not. I don't know if there is anyway, but it's one of those things just from work. I know that there's a lot of conversations across the country, because all of these are set at state, all privacy laws are set at state level for the United States. Anyway, if he's aware of anything that could be potentially impact this in the coming months, whatever.
There's nothing, right now, there's nothing. So the Connecticut Library Association Legislative Committee knows every bill. We have one or two people who literally, if a bill comes up, we all get an email. There's nothing that's hit our radar for this legislative session. There is a bill that passed the last legislative session, which has some implications to this, but not really. But, no one has, Kate, no one has brought up, this is kind of like standard. So
I assume so. It's.
And just a reminder, the Wi-Fi was the best.
Yeah, there it is.
Thank
Yep,
you.
again. The only other thing I was gonna mention as a note, it is a new policy for us, but in as much as we can we shouldn't communicate it as a new policy necessarily, in the sense of, just as I was asking you before, we've always been doing this. This has been our standard operating procedure. We're not just codifying it. So just something to note for you guys and for the board to keep in mind as we think about this, because we don't want somebody to go back and think, oh shit, what have they been going? What have they been sharing with people before?
That's true. That's a good way to.
Because it's something, we are being responsible in adding this to the policies, but I want people to think it wasn't how we operated previously. Fantastic. So we will review, and also we'll just, to that note to the trustees, to please do take a look once Scott circulates the legal review of this policy. All right. Well, speaking of desktop computers, let's get into our committee and liaison reports. Space planning. More space for desktop computers, Chris?
We haven't spoken.
Okay.
recently.
That being said, I know it was built as a standing committee. I imagine we want to maintain this committee.
The space planning, or
Yeah.
get morphed into the other committee that we now have.
That is we'll maintain it for now. Scott, in our next session, let's discuss whether it remains a committee for the time being. All right, moving on to fundraising. That to us?
Why? Fortunately, I've been.
Kind of predisposed.
Predisposed.
Cool.
Second spine surgery.
Oof. Peter, one thing I was going to note, May does have a background in fundraising as well. So if you two could connect and just kind of share some thoughts, and I think just even having that, an extra voice in there is always, it is always a pain when it's just you having to come to, we look to you each time.
I think, yeah,
All three of you. But yeah, I would just recommend that moving forward. Okay, so next
I
up
thought
there.
you were gonna say May has a background in physical therapy.
But. Shoot, we should get one of those. Moving to the next committee is the ad hoc bond committee. We met, 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago at Fairfield Woods. Nancy was wonderful, took us through, gave us a full tour, talked about the, I don't want to say challenges, but the opportunities we have to optimize some of the space and how the structure is maybe not, while it's got good bones, is not necessarily the most well-utilized building in our town. So, one of the things that we'll have to do from this, that it does not appear from our perspective from this meeting that there's an opportunity for us to do what we would call a Band-Aid solution to this. And this actually kind of does relate back to the previous committee because there will be an impact to that. But it does look like it's something that we'll have to look towards, probably a gut job of the property. That being said, there's a lot of externalities that have to be taken into consideration as a result, usage for those patrons that are primary woods users. From a funding perspective, how are we gonna plan for that? There's definitely need to be some fundraising efforts, as well as potentially another bond. That's where we go, as well as looking towards putting out an RFP for Steve to get us started with an architect. So there's a number of steps we'll have to put. We will for the next meeting have more formalized kind of plan as it relates to that. But one of the things that we've talked about, this is a bond issue previously. Realistically, it is not a bond issue that we're looking to do. It is because we don't know everything else. We don't know if it will be bondable, if the town will be, there's an appetite to do that within the town. So rather than call this the ad hoc bond committee, I would like to make a motion that this is no longer ad hoc bond, but rather called the building committee, with its specific purpose around the refurbishment of Fairfield Woods. Is there a second to that? Peter? All in favor? Fantastic. So rather than the ad hoc bond committee, we will now be the building committee, which, as Chris did mention, there may be an opportunity to bring that into space planning, but I think for the time being, specifically as an ad hoc committee, it is for the specific purpose of the, as I say, I'll call it refurbishment rather than rebuild of Fairfield Woods. And then in the next meeting, we can hear more around, we'll talk a little bit more about timelines, putting some more steps in the process, especially as we've come through some of the RFP stuff with website redesign. Some of the learnings we've had off of that. So that will be in the next meeting ideally, and with a target date shortly, probably middle of next year. So thank you again, Nancy, for taking us through everything, and for Scott for the good conversation. I think there's a lot of opportunity with that space, and it could be a wonderful hub for everybody over there, and be a great space to be used, and potentially even a great starting point for what we see as the next evolution of our library and how space is used within our library. So thank you all for that. Scott, yeah, absolutely.
Just about the committees, who
These committees consist of board members.
Board members as well as, volunteers. So from the space planning committee, it's Chris. Fundraising, Peter. What is now the building committee is myself, Aaron, and Chris. And then Friends of the Library, normally Donna Cahill, but she is not here today. So Scott will be covering off on that. She is the president. Yes, you did. Yes, she was here last time. And then the website redesign is projects from, that Jill has been leading.
Are there other committee members not on the board? Just board members.
It is primarily just board members, but we do have interaction with the staff for the website redesign, for example. Peter as well, fundraising is working with the Friends as well, because they are 501c3.
Still waiting.
So we funnel them. I hate the way I said, we'd have to funnel the money through them.
They would need to be the fiduciary.
Under the library.
Thank you for putting it the correct legal way.
Fiduciary, yes.
Yes.
The library is not a 501.
Correct. We're a town,
Right, right.
the library itself, and the board is not either. So we are, managing body of the library, which is a town department. So we are a board, Fairfield Town Board. And yes, it is the Friends, they will do their donations
Okay,
to the library as part of the 501c3.
got it. Thank you.
Yes, no, great question on that. And similarly for space planning, Scott has worked, prior to Scott and myself, has worked with Jan for a number of these items. And then same with the building committee, will be interfacing obviously with the staff, with the public, potentially, and definitely with the town as well. So, but it is all those efforts are led by us. We wouldn't have necessarily committee members that are non-members of the board.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, no problem.
In other words, none of us have administrative assistants.
That'd be nice.
Andrew, when I first joined the board, 13 years ago or something, starting this, that was like one of the first things that I remember writing about, and there was all kinds of, they had like a work, like a building thing when someone went and there was some big report, it's probably around somewhere, I'm sure it's not dated.
We were just talking about that with,
We have everything in my office now.
okay, good,
I figured somebody would
Good.
have.
yeah.
I didn't know if you knew that.
Building plans, because we want to look at the original ones
We
too.
have the original ones.
I don't remember how long I've been doing this, if it was 12 or 13.
Well, there's been, for this building,
I've seen a lot of boards.
for this building, there's been 3 projects, but for Woods, I think there's been 2. There's one that has the giant plaque, and that was a redo. And then I think there's another one too.
I don't think there was a big renovation.
91, the last
I
renovation.
think so, yeah, I think it was built in 69, was it?
What's that?
Yeah, I was gonna say that, because I
And then
picture
renovated in 91 and this.
some Corvairs in that picture.
Horse and buggy.
Say that I used to be.
But I just didn't know if you were known.
No, I appreciate that, that is,
Rebuilding, knocking down, having, there was a
Well,
lot.
there's been multiple plans that, there was one assessment that they did that wasn't too long ago, 10 years ago.
Just a little over 10, right before, well, you're 11 now, so, yeah, like you're saying,
Yeah,
12,
yeah.
13 years.
Yeah, it was shortly after. And.
Yeah. yeah. No, I
There was an
appreciate that.
elevator.
That elevator.
How to talk about.
No, thank you, Laurie. All right, Scott, do you want to share the Friends of the Library update?
Friends, library updates, pretty quick, 11, the 2nd. They did an art gallery opening, so there's a new show downstairs for everybody to see. December, they want to remind everybody that they're doing their annual appeal. So they'll be doing that, with some synergy from the board to help them with that. And also what Donna didn't include, what I want to include is they finally passed this year's budget. So I think we're on 3 to 4 meetings of this year's budget. but they moved through it at their last meeting and now they officially have a budget for this fiscal.
Great. All right, and then, website redesign. Jill, I know we had put out RFP. Do you want to, provide an update on where we stand with that? I know.
Yeah,
There was
you
some
can hear me
others.
okay, right?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So yes, so we put the RFP out and we actually managed to solicit 3, right, Scott? 3. Scott and Mary did a great job at trying to send it out to give notification to various web design companies that they had been referred to, that they were impressed with their work. So we managed to get 3. We thought we'd get a little bit more, but that's fine. It's all right. 3 really good ones. We met last week and we spoke thoroughly through some of the websites and looked at some of the examples, different clients that they've been working with before. So we're presently going to be rating. We have a worksheet that was utilized by the town when they were looking at their website redesign work and their vendors. So we're actually, the 3 of us are going through them diligently, doing our worksheet, marking that up, and then we're discussing potentially talking with each of them. So we have kind of more of a well-rounded view of their capabilities and what our needs are, because I think it's always smart to communicate. And then we plan to present to the board our recommendation, and we'll have that final, this is how the order in which we think we should be looking at them. And then hopefully we'll have the gang vote on approving that vendor.
Fantastic.
I think before the end of the year, right? I think in December in the next meeting, most likely.
Scott crossed his fingers.
I can't hear you guys all of a sudden.
Oh, no.
Now I can.
Okay, I guess I'm just too loud. No, Scott just said we should invite David to that meeting. David Gray was the former. Yes.
Please check out.
Was not, he really wanted this done in his tenure.
Yeah.
Didn't quite make it.
I know.
All right.
Us marketing people always want things done yesterday. You know how it goes.
Yes, indeed.
Who is responsible for populating the web content?
That's all done through staff. So, Mary Mao, who is actually the town web person, is a staff member here. So she does a considerable amount of the work. A lot of it's static stuff. It's policy stuff or directions or photos of study rooms. We haven't really done any blogging.
Have you given any thought really to try and get into the budget a webmaster? One person who's dedicated to us and could make it more dynamic. And I mean, especially in light of the fact that we're going out to do this, design.
We would love to have Mary completely focus on the web. More so, we just got a complaint about this the other day, being more active on our social media.
Right. Well, that would be part of it.
Yeah, that would be, websites, they draw traffic, but really social media engagement, I think, is more the direction you're thinking of.
Call it social media, man.
Yeah, so
It's just the same.
yeah, and the staff here do a really great job of creating content, and that's why we've started to report a little bit of our hits. But we could do more compared to other. So we are sitting down, hopefully in the next month, just kind of talk about, doling out those responsibilities a little bit more. And there is going to be a little bit of a conversation. A lot of credit should be given to Mary for the work she did on the town's new website. I mean, she did an incredible job.
I'm not.
Oh, no.
That I'm more my feeling is,
Have someone more focused.
should we have somebody focused, who's ours? And is this with the putting together fiscal year 24, 25 budget?
Scary.
Huh?
It's scary.
But you might. Then should we try and shoot for it in the budget? What do you think?
I mean, we should definitely ask the town, it could be something and ask from the town. I would not want it coming out of our budget because it's a slippery slope.
What is the new budget plan?
Within our budget, my thing with it is just around, anytime we've talked about allocating funds from the board to funding a position, it is a bit of a slippery slope for us to fund a role, fund an FTE, because then they'll ask us to fund more. And then it becomes an issue where we are expending money for operations costs. So it is something that I think it is definitely a good thing to have discussion on. There are implications around how we would get that done that we need to discuss further.
Yeah, just a thought.
No, it's good. It's a good thought.
I think Scott's pointed out that social media is a good one. And if we are, putting aside the money for a second, if we think in terms of greater usage, greater visibility for the community, there's so many things that can be done that it's mind-boggling. Some people are doing out there.
Definitely. I think, Scott, we were talking a little bit about some of this, like the asks from a role perspective, and potentially there's an opportunity to modify a job description slightly to include more social media responsibilities as part of the role. So look at it that way as well. At least as a stopgap as well in the interim.
And that's not uncommon in the field or industry.
Okay.
And that's even for libraries our size. Believe it was just Greenwich, one of the Gold Coast libraries. They've just redid a position where it was more of a marketing position, and the idea is the individuals, in my last library, the individuals still work the desk. They still, still did a desk shift. So they still fulfilled some frontline role, but whereas some of our back office work is book selection and program planning, instead of that person really concentrated, that 75% of the time is really concentrated on creating content, like Peter said, creating content for the website, and simultaneously social media and driving interaction. Social media is a great way to drive traffic to your website and also to interact with others and get them engaged.
Yeah. Yeah, so as we're going through the redesign process of the website, let's continue to talk through that and what we can do as a board to support that and what needs to come from the town and the job descriptions as well. But great call out, Peter. All right. Thank you again, Jill. Moving into the treasurer's report, Aaron.
Not too much to update. This month, pretty flat, and the balances for the prior month. I did see, Jan, that you had written a check for the furniture, so I'll remember that we had funded the board funding for fiscal year 23 back in August. So a majority of that was earmarked for the furniture order.
Yep.
Nothing else for me.
Do we have any other?
Yes. That was 53, and we put 102 in, give or take. 53, 48, something along those lines. I did put in my notes that I don't have up right now. It might be 48.
We don't need the internet to get those notes.
Somewhere between, let's just say that
Okay.
it's half of it remaining.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, well, moving on to new business. The board chair got ahead of himself and already did this, so we'll just skip on past that one. Hope you did that horse, dude.
I wanted you guys to know the fact that I watched it around for the last 2 months.
Well, we'll get into old business. The Barbara Frankel estate. So this is, Dan, do you mind just giving a quick voiceover on the?
So if you recall, Barbara Franco is a beloved patron of ours, or she loved us or something, and she.
She loved us,
And she left us as a claimant for an annuity. So a few months back, we had all the paperwork. Aaron and Andrew signed it, but it's through RiverSource, and RiverSource is now saying that they need the document that says that Aaron and Andrew are allowed to sign the document. So that's, you need to vote that Aaron and Andrew are allowed to sign the document at a formal
This
board
is
meeting.
$10,000 annuity.
Do we know how much it is? We don't
I don't
know.
think we actually had a number up, but that being
Might be
I think you
less.
said the total, but didn't tell what our portion.
what
was.
the,
The
Yeah,
total I
might be
know
less.
did not need to be notarized, if I can remember the amount. I
yeah,
want to say less than 10,000.
I think so.
Yeah.
There's a few claimants names.
So do you need a motion?
Yes.
yes, we do.
I make a motion, I go ahead and make a motion that the library board of trustees approves Aaron Hannigan as treasurer. and
Harrigan.
Harrigan.
Sorry. Andrew Minaya as the chairperson, acting secretary to be signers for the documents related to the acceptance of the Barbara Frankel annuity.
Your second?
One edit, second. But also with an edit, I think you should start it with that. Your word. But,
Oh, since they're requesting this as proof of our,
It's not in my footnotes.
just do it, Chris. Dance monkey.
Approve the library closing in 5 minutes, please check.
With the edit, I
Thank you.
second the motion with the edit.
Right. All in favor? Right. Passes. So as a result, Jan, are we good
So
with the existing
Now, I
signatures?
will turn in the paperwork along with a copy of the minutes, but probably have to wait until the minutes are approved.
Yep.
You have a year.
Tick tock, tick tock. All right. Do let us know if we need to re-sign anything, new dates. Okay. Next item that is, we've discussed previously, but is something we definitely do want to approve tonight, is the schedule for our 2024 meeting schedule. So as everyone will recall, the majority of our meetings will be the second Monday of the month, excluding a few where we have to go earlier because of holidays. We have identified 3 meetings that will be conducted at the Fairfield Woods branch over the course of the year. So if everyone takes a look, just speak now or forever hold your peace of the proposed schedule. Any questions, thoughts, feedback? Aaron, you seem to be better at speaking than Chris, so, pronouncing people's last names correctly.
People's last
Actually, you got mine.
I got yours, did I did drop a hand in this video.
It's usually Harrington that we get.
Oh, well, I was on a call today where somebody tried to say my last name, and it was a wild ride.
Wait, how did they drop? Like, what did they do?
Oh. God, I don't even know. It was like,
Probably Minnie,
oh no, it was even worse than that. It was like a new pronunciation I hadn't heard before.
Can you repeat it?
I know, I was like, it was one of those. Whip. I'm not even mad. I'm impressed because I've heard them all. Yeah, it was not.
Right, I will make a motion that the library board of trustees approves the 2024 board of trustees meeting schedule.
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right, motion passes. So Scott, we will, with that approval, now get those meetings confirmed for scheduling here and at Woods. We block times, block the office space, the meeting space rather. And finally, we do have our FPL gift policy that we looked at 2 months ago, I believe it was. Scott, do you want to just do a quick voiceover of any?
So no substantive changes. It's like every policy that we've been changing. Town attorney always just wanted us to clarify that the library is a department of the town. So this really becomes town policy. So that's really the only place that the language is really changed. Everything else has relatively stayed the same, and this has been reviewed by the town attorney.
Great. Would like to make a motion. You haven't done one yet.
We need to approve gift policy. What's the adjourn?
Gift policy.
Gift
no-
policy first.
Resolve
Motion
that,
to approve the library
resolve the policy is that would be approved.
Right, second,
I'll second.
Aaron? Oh, Jill.
Yeah.
Jill. All in favor? All right. So it is approved. All right, with that being the last item of business, is there anything else before we conclude our meeting this evening? All right. So as to not hold, maybe we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Nope. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? All right. So this meeting is adjourned at 8:01 PM. Thank you everyone for your time this evening, and we will talk to you guys next month.